Welcome to the Grammica podcast. This is the first episode of our four-part series where we'll be exploring ways to deepen our understanding of the Arabic language. Throughout the series, we'll discuss common mistakes, key challenges learners face, and practical tips and strategies to help you improve. Without further ado, let's begin. I'm Sadia Asan, your host, and today I'm joined by our guest, Ustadh Yusuf. Assalamu alaikum, Ustadh. Very excited to host the first episode of these four-part series that Grammica is putting out. We were going to be talking about why Arabic grammar is important, why learning Arabic grammar is important. But please introduce us to yourself, to your own journey, and then we'll dive right in.
Okay, so I started studying Arabic in my first formal study was a year in college at university. I took a year or a year and a half of modern standard Arabic, and I left it at that. I forgot a lot of it afterwards, but that passion and desire for learning classical Arabic was still there. And then many years later, I came to Jordan and began studying formally. I finished a program in about a year and a half, and shortly after began teaching. I was teaching for a good 14 years at Qasid Institute. That really helped me just solidify the concepts in my own mind. I really got turned on to grammar actually by my first teacher. So often they say you'll get your desire for a certain topic when you like your first teacher. So he was interested in Arabic and tafsir, and so that really made me interested. So I've been teaching for the last 18 years now. We started Grammica a few years ago, and that's basically a summary of my Arabic journey. I'm still learning, and it's a push with family. I live in Jordan with my family here, but it's very manageable now online with all the resources that we have.
Right. Wonderful, wonderful. So diving right in, my first question to you is that why does it matter? Why does Arabic grammar actually matter?
If you compare it to English, right? English is like a word order dependent language. You say, for example, the boy hit the ball. Okay. And you just switch these two words around. You say the ball hit the boy. Completely different meaning.
Sure.
Okay. With Arabic, it's not like that. Arabic the meanings depend on the endings of the word, right? They call that declension. And if I say, for example, we have two characters in Arabic grammar, Zayd and Amr. Okay. So we say, for example, Daraba Zaydun Amran, Zayd struck Amr. And then I say, Daraba Amran Zaydun, it means the same thing. How can it mean the same thing when I'm moving the words around? Is because it's not dependent on word order.
Right.
It's dependent on the endings, right? And so if you studied some Arabic before, you know that the doer of the verb, the subject of the verb, the fa'il, will take usually a dhamma. And in both of these examples, daraba Zaydun Amran and daraba Amran Zaydun, Zayd has a dhamma. So that's a very actually simple example of when you need to know Arabic, even though I could give you all the words. So someone who hasn't studied grammar, you would say, these are the meanings of the words, and you give them the two different sentences. What do they mean? If they're English speakers, they'll resort to the word order in their mind, right? But like I said, Arabic is based on declension. And so this comes in not only at the beginning stages, of course, even more so intermediate and advanced stages when you're reading unvocalized texts. You might have a text that's vocalized at the beginning with all the harakat, the dhamma, fatha, kasra, and it'll help you. But sometimes you'll note quickly that Arabic publishers nowadays are not always precise and they make mistakes. They're trying to push out a book for print. And so they will be actually incorrect. How can you read confidently and accurately? You studied your grammar. Right? Because these vowels, you have to understand on texts that we read are aids, right? They're there to help you when you don't know. But if you know it, you actually don't need all the harakat, all the vowels. Okay, and how do you get around that? You know your grammar, and you're not dependent on these, right?
Mm.
You might say, okay, I know the words. You may know all the words in a sentence, but they'll come to a point where there's a ceiling. There'll always be a ceiling, right? Because words are important. I'm not saying vocabulary is not important, it's very important. But there is a limit, right? There'll come a time where you know the words, but you can't bring it together. Okay, how do you bring it together?
Mm.
You look at the endings. This is, okay, there's a kana here, so I'm looking for a predicate of kana. It's going to be mansub, it's going to have a fatha, right? You can translate it like that, right?
Mm.
And that's like an intermediate level. Once you get into poetry, that's the word order is like thrown out the window. That things are moved around all over the place, and grammar then becomes even more important.
Right, right. So it really is the backbone, really is the thread of the fabric.
Yeah, yeah.
Connected, my second question is that so how does learning grammar help us to understand the Quran better? How is there depth to it? Is there breadth to it? Both?
Right. Okay. So the Quran it's a miracle. You can understand it at different levels. Someone may not need to study grammar to understand the basic meaning of the words, the Quran. Okay, even a native Arab who hasn't studied Arabic, he hasn't even gone to school, he'll be able to put things together. Okay,
Mm.
but we have to remember the Quran is the peak of Arabic eloquence. Okay, and with that eloquence, there come constructions that are complicated. And if you want to understand the words in a sentence, right, grammar helps to do that. Okay, how, like, once you go past that initial stage of understanding, uh, how do you understand the Quran? It's through tafsir, okay,
Right.
Quranic exegesis. All linguistic tafsirs, all serious tafsirs, the great tafsirs, they'll have some discussion. There'll be some discussion about grammar, about nahu, about sarf, in about the words in the in the ayah, right? And if you haven't studied that, it will be you won't be able to access those texts, right? If you want to say, I want to understand Quran and Hadith, well, there's different levels again, right? You can understand it from vocabulary, but if you want to go a bit deeper, like innamal a'malu bin niyat,
Right.
okay? So I could say, okay, the innama means this and amal means this and bin niyat, but knowing grammar will tell you a little bit more about why innama and not inna, for example.
Mm.
Okay, you have to know nahu for that.
Okay, so one, it sort of deepens the understanding, but I think it also sort of deepens the appreciation. As you said, it's a miracle. We can never ever summit the peak, really.
Right.
But there is a lot of appreciation every time you learn something new, even if it is just really the significance of each and every word, each and every haraka.
Right.
Since you spoke about, Ustadh, you mentioned that once we have sort of crossed the initial stage, so if we sort of backtrack and here is somebody who is wanting to begin the journey of Arabic grammar, how do we navigate? What do we do at
Okay.
a beginner level?
Okay, yeah, I like this question. So the answer is going to be interesting. I suggest you do not study explicitly only grammar at the beginning.
Mhm.
Okay. I suggest you do not study something like Matal Ajrumiyya when you're just beginning. Okay. When I say just beginning, it's assumed you know how to read the Quran. Most Muslims read the Quran, they're able to read the Quran, but don't understand it. Okay. But,
Mm.
and if you're not at that level, you take a few classes in Tajweed, in Quranic recitation, and you can quickly learn in a few months to read. I suggest students study what I guess I could call general Arabic. Okay. What is general Arabic? And I'll tell you a personal story after the reason why I also believe this. So, general Arabic is things about Arabic that you have to know, right? That you like, even if you're not quote unquote grammar, but it's just in every single sentence, in every single passage. And that are things, concepts like something that is definite, indefinite, gender in Arabic, right? You learn about something as singular, dual, and plural. We have number in Arabic, right? We learn about like the sifa, the adjective, right? We have this common construction, which is the idafa, right? The x of y construction. This is, pronouns, right? This is called general Arabic. First thing is when I finished my program, I had studied Ajrumiyya, I had studied the Azhariyya, I had studied portions of Qatr and Nada, it's a grammar text. I grabbed my buddy, and he was interested in learning Arabic. I was interested in keeping it, so I started teaching it. Started teaching him Ajrumiyya. Started teaching him Al-Kalam huwa lafz al-murakkab al-mufidu bil-wad'i. It's the first part of this grammar text. He was very frustrated after a couple of sessions. I couldn't understand why he was frustrated. He couldn't understand what was going on. He didn't know the basic words. He didn't know how to say, I'm going to the store. He didn't know the boy's backpack. He didn't know these things. So what I should have done is I should have gotten a copy of like the Madinah book series and just taught him from there. Basic sentence structure, hadha baytun. So teaching someone general Arabic is much better than teaching them the Matan al-Ajrumiyya. Don't get me wrong. We teach the Matan al-Ajrumiyya in the essentials and the intermediate. We read through the whole thing in the intermediate certificate.
Right.
And in the essentials, we teach all the marfu'at, mansubat, right? But this is done after a person is comfortable with how the basic language works. Okay, those topics that I mentioned earlier. And these are the common constructions that are in the first 9 chapters of the book we do in the foundations course, Haywood and Nahmed's A New Arabic Grammar. I had a great time with that class because they teach you basic things, alif lam, right? These are things that are feminine, even though they don't have a feminine marker, like for example, ard or nar, right? And simple translation from English to Arabic, Arabic to English. As a beginner, I wouldn't focus on any grammar topic. I would just learn general Arabic, and that can be done with any of those books, whether it's Haywood and Nahmed, whether it's the Medina book series, or if you have even like a first year Arabic class at university. Okay, even if you do the Al Kitab series in college, anything but just a year of general Arabic is what people first need to do, right? They can always do the classic mutun, they can always do the classic grammars later on, right? And that there is a place for it. And I'm not saying don't do it. I'm just saying that maybe not the first thing that you teach a non-Arab, okay? Because they don't have that vocabulary in place, right? Ajrumiyya, you have to remember, was taught to kids. These kids already have a huge bank. They have years and years. At least they have like 10 years of Arabic, right, in their life. We're just starting off, so that's my. There, of course, there are other methods. I just found that this is what works.
Of course, fair. Ustad, my next two questions are sort of clubbed together because when you said, that your friend felt frustrated. So the first part of the question is that why do we find it so intimidating Arabic grammar. We're okay to attend or listen to tafasirs. Again, we're okay to go and sort of polish our recitations through tajweed and all. But Arabic grammar, one, it gets very intimidating. So that's for the first part. And then the other part is that when somebody has decided to embark on the journey, how do we keep studying, going through the drills without getting overwhelmed?
Okay, this is a hard question because I think it goes back to the person. It's often a mindset. Like I had to tell myself, like psych myself up, and I even tell people, just tell yourself it's easy until it becomes easy.
Mm,
Okay, and it's unfortunately often it's the way it's taught. Okay,
yeah,
and as we in the West, often we learn Arabic at an adult age. We're learning it, and we have adults learn differently than children, right?
sure.
The children, you just give them say, oh, memorize this, and they memorize it, and then actually works. So you teach them later on. You explain, but adult wants to know why do I have to memorize it,
Mm,
and so often it's taught out of context. I believe there's not enough practice on authentic texts. Grammar is actually quite simple if you build a framework. Yeah.
okay.
Okay. If you got a framework, like something like the Ajrumiyya, you have like okay, I know my marfu'at are here and my mansubat are here, and this is where the sifa is taught. Okay. You've got a framework foundation and you construct all your future learning and you base it on that foundation, on top of that foundation. It's easier to retrieve that way. Okay. You said attending or attending a lesson. Attending lesson, or teacher Sheikh Ali said you could attend like 500 lessons. It doesn't mean you know the topic unless you teach the topic. Okay.
Right.
With
Okay.
grammar, it's something you have to study. Okay.
Mm,
Everyone wants to learn, everyone wants to know grammar, but no one wants to study Arabic. What does studying mean?
mm,
Studying Arabic means, you know, yes, you with your books alone.
mm,
Okay, that's what studying is. It's not like
mm.
yeah, it's when like let's say you're in a program and your buddies, your roommates say, okay, let's go get a shawarma. Okay, let's go to this restaurant and let's go visit here. And you say no, I've got work to do. I've got an exam tomorrow, right? And you spend your time in that. So it's often like a motivation, but how do we increase that motivation? You apply it. So at the basic level, right? Like let's say the essentials level that we have in the essential certificate, you go through the Ajrumiyya. Once you've done your Ajrumiyya, you've got your Nahu in place, then you do something like Qasas al-Nabiyyin,
Mm,
stories of the prophets, where
mm.
you're learning about stories of the prophets, really. And it starts a very simple, right? The book by Imam Hassan, Abul Hassan al-Nadwi. Now, I don't recommend you jump into it without studying your Nahu and Sarf. That's almost like cheating. It's good, you're applying it, but you do your Nahu and Sarf so you can work your way around the text with some confidence.
Okay.
Okay?
Got it. Yeah.
And that's Qasas al-Nabiyyin. And then at a later stage, you study his other book, Qira al-Rashida, which is a assortment of stories that I think he mostly wrote. And then you go to authentic text, classical text, older
Mm,
text.
mm.
Okay, you read something from the Mukhtarat min Adab al-Arab, which is his collection of some of the most eloquent pieces of literature in the Arab and Islamic history, and he compiles them. Okay, you read something like the Ihya, right? You do a guided reading program. That's a guided reading program is basically like you come to the text, you prepare the text, and you translate, and someone corrects your translation and gives you feedback.
Okay.
Okay,
Okay.
that's
Yeah.
very motivating for a lot of students because
Mm,
they are now they're getting immediate feedback, and they don't feel overwhelmed when it's explained very simply.
mm.
You know? And you have to do, you of course, you have to look at topics that interest you.
Yeah.
Maybe you're interested in Jahili poetry at the higher levels. You do some Sher Jahili, or you're interested in the Qasida Burda by Imam Busiri, so you read that. Right?
Mm.
So, but you have to always remember your why. You always have to remember the reason why you're learning. People really. I've so many people. It's my passion to learn Arabic, um, and passion only gets you so far. You have to put in the work.
Sure. No,
Like
no, I get that. I get that. I
my
think, Ustad, you're absolutely right because uh, I think there's just so much of information out there as well, which also gets very overwhelming. On social media, there are
yeah,
literally like
yeah,
Arabic reels and uh,
yeah.
learn Arabic in the next 60 days kind of a thing. So that all of that is a lot to digest. And you're absolutely right. I think it's the why. Why are we doing it? It's really that.
Yeah, you brought up is in this time where you have so many things competing for your attention, you really have to close those other tabs
Mm.
and focus. And this is a reminder to myself because on any given, I'm listening to the explanation of the Ajrumiyya by this other person. I'm listening to this, and really, you just have to focus and do one thing, right? It's and there's often students, beginning students, will say, okay, should I do this or should I do that? Should I do this? It's very much like asking, like when the person who wants to work out, he's asking you all these this method and this training thing and this training thing, but you ask, well, how many times did you go to the gym, or how many times did you work out last week?
Mm.
Right?
Mm.
How many hours have you spent?
Mm.
Right? The same thing with Arabic. Often it's how many hours did you spend on Arabic? I'm not
Mm.
talking about interruptions. Just clock yourself. Hours. How many hours did you spend last week on Arabic? It'll tell you where you are.
Right, right.
Okay.
Got it.
And
Understood.
and keep in mind, listening, just passive listening. I mean, it has benefits, but it's not like doing the work yourself.
Hmm.
Okay.
Okay, got that. Got
Uh,
that. Very clear. Ustad, just concluding now our first episode. If our listeners want to know more about the programs that Grammica is offering, what do they do?
they can go to Grammica.institute. If they've done some Arabic before, you could look at the free 5-day class that we have in Essentials. We have a free 350-page textbook. It's called the Essentials textbook on grammar. They can download that for free.
Okay.
I wrote that after 15 years of teaching grammar to like
Wow.
800 students, 10,000 hours.
Okay.
And so it's basically like the result of that teaching. Uh, if they're new, they can take the foundations class. We don't have which is starting in June. I recommend that wholeheartedly. I ran it last year, and I think it really benefited them. But we have, for everybody, we have a different level, right?
Okay.
Essential, intermediate, advanced. They can go and look at the course page and the details and email us at contact at Grammica, Grammica .institute.
Brilliant. Brilliant. That sounds good. Ustad, look forward to speaking to you again. And Jazakallah khair for today.
Thank you very much. Wa yakum.
Assalamu alaikum wa
Wa
rahmatullahi.
wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullah.